How's it going, you guys? Damocles here, and today I'm going to be talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is stealing Zapdos. It is probably my favorite activity in Pokemon Unite. I do it a lot, and I want to help you guys secure more Zapdoses and steal more Zapdoses so you can win more games, because those two things go hand in hand. You guys want a more general strategy guide, so I'm bringing it to you. So please, if you could consider subscribing if you haven't already, it would mean a lot, and hitting that like button as well. It really helps me out. A bunch of people watch these videos and haven't subscribed. Come on, help me out. Help me get to 20k subs so that I can give away this Nintendo eShop gift card. Also, if you want to talk with me or you have any questions specifically, hop in my Discord. I'm available all the time. And if you want any dope Team Shiny merch, go and click the merch link in the description, and you can help me out monetarily as well. But regardless, let's talk about Zapdos, huh? Zapdos is the king of the objectives. It is the game decider, arguably, right up there next to Dreadnought, and it is monumentally important that you secure this if someone has started it. And the biggest thing that I can say in regards to stealing Zapdos is don't just go to Zapdos and think you're immediately going to steal it. You have to prepare for it. You can't just do these things all willy-nilly. I mean, obviously, sometimes things fall into your lap, but your percentage chance of taking Zap is going to massively increase if you plan ahead for it. Now, obviously, in this situation, I can't plan ahead that I'm going to have a random lag spike when I go to steal, but I can plan that I have Ludicolo buff, so that I have a higher percentage chance of dealing more damage to the target when it's at low health, and that is what I do. I steal Zap, and we win the game off of it. Now, what do I mean by prepping? So, like I just said, Ludicolo buff goes and increases your damage to wild Pokemon targets below a certain HP threshold. And everything about stealing Zapdos is in regards to massive amounts of burst damage. That is what matters when we are talking about stealing. Not just securing, but stealing the objective. Okay, and so having something that increases your damage even further to lower HP targets, like a low HP Zapdos, is something that you absolutely want to have, if at all possible, when you are planning for a Zapdos steal. Another thing to take into account is Dreadnought. Now, Dreadnought, super important. I've talked about it in other videos, but the last Dreadnought, you do not want to take it, okay? Because what Dreadnought does is it puts a debuff on your team that drastically reduces your damage to Zapdos. Drastically. Like, cuts your damage almost in half or more. And so, if you go and you are planning to steal Zap, or you're planning to take Zap and you need it to get back into the game, and you don't have somebody that can cleanse that debuff on your team, you're basically giving away the game when you go and take that final Dreadnought. So absolutely keep that in mind when you are planning to go and take Zap at any point in the game. Don't get that last Dreadnought. And if your team isn't aware of this, don't help them take Dreadnought. If anything, try and bait the enemy team into taking it so you have a better chance. This is another perfect example of preparing for Zap. Okay? I am sitting in this bush. I am in this bush long before they rotate up. And I'm not moving out of this bush until this Zap gets low. They will have to come find me, or I'm going to take this. And that's absolutely what I'm going to do. I mean, come on, guys. It's in the video, right? And we are super far behind here, but this secures us the win. Now, could this have been prevented by their side? Absolutely. All they had to do was check a bush, but they didn't. And because of that, and because I prepared for it, because I got set up there before they did, they lose the game off of it. They lose a 100% victory game off of it. And see, it's like, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, like, preparing before you actually go to it. Like, could I have possibly stolen it if I had just walked up as Mr. Mime? Yeah, totally. But I'm far behind in this game, and the likelihood, if they're a smart team, and they're not just brain dead rushing Zapdos, the likelihood of them just stopping Zap, stopping all damage on Zap and turning on me and taking me out, and then we just lose the game off of it, is 10 times higher. But if they don't know that I'm actually there, then my chances of winning go drastically up. Right now, before I got that Zapdos, there was a 0% chance of me winning that game. As soon as they start that Zapdos, my chances immediately, and I'm in the vicinity, my chances immediately go up to 50%. That's called a 50-50 Zapdos, right? It's their team versus me, And if I can get in there and do damage, there's no smites in this game like there is in League of Legends, where you can deal a large amount of damage at one time with like a summoner spell or a battle item. It is straight up ability damage versus ability damage. And it dramatically increases your chances of winning the game if the enemy team is in the lead and they take Zapdos. So you need to be prepared. You need to take, like, just be prepared for that. Another aspect of stealing Zap is if you want to actually draft a team comp around it. It doesn't have to be an entire team composition, but say if you're a solo player and you're having problems winning games, and you're like, oh man, we do everything right, and then we lose at Zapdos, or we do everything right and we lose at Dreadnought. It might be worthwhile to consider taking a character that is more apt to steal Zapdoses. Certain characters are much better at it. You're going to have a lot easier of a time going and stealing a Zapdos with a Brave Bird from Talonflame than you are with a, I don't know, with a Slowbro. Okay? It's just how it is, because you have that burst damage. You have that element of being able to execute the target at low HP, do a large amount of burst damage, and steal it. And so I can do an entire other video on like characters that are phenomenal at stealing objectives, but like, you know, your Charizards, your Talonflames, your Venusaurs, your Gardevoirs, your high burst damage characters, even characters that have executes like a Greninja. These characters are all much better at taking Zapdoses, at stealing Zapdoses away from the enemy team than other low HP characters or low damage, low burst damage characters like a Cinderace. So that's something to keep in mind as well. If you are having problems securing Zapdoses or you're getting them stolen away from you, you need to think about like, okay, what characters am I actually playing? You know, like a lot of people put Talonflame low on the tier list, but if you go on a 10-game win streak, because even though you get smashed the entire game as Talonflame, but you steal 7 Zapdoses, then screw the tier lists, right? And this goes the opposite direction as well. I'll just sprinkle in some of this Zapdos defense ideology too. If you're ahead, and you need to also be aware of like what the enemy team is bringing to the Zapdos fight. If I'm super far ahead, if I'm 100% winning this game and I decide to go for Zapdos, and 4 people on the enemy team are dead, but I don't have eyes on the Talonflame, not going to take the Zapdos, not going to go for it, not going to risk a 50-50 Zapdos when it's a secured game, right? And so like it's just this ongoing theme of like high burst damage, all right, being prepared and being in a correct position to actually take Zapdos, and then having the correct buffs and objectives needed to actually secure it, right? Like if you are, obviously we talked about Ludicolo, we talked about the Dreadnought debuff and stuff like that, but there's also just an element of like, if you're ahead, do you think you can just outdamage the enemy team when you go to take it? And you need to be constantly looking at Zap. That's part of preparation, is like right here. This is a perfect example. I could go and I could score 100 top and my team needs it because we are behind. But I'm looking at this team fight and I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go for it. So I go and I'm toiling. You can see the gears turning in my head. I'm like, do I go and score this or do I go and steal this? And so I just make the man mode choice. I'm like, no, I got to show these guys that I'm better than them, right? So I see the Blissey bot and I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's go man mode this. And look at this play. This play is insane. Look at this. Oh, man. Straight up just wins us the game. And it comes from knowing like, all right, they're going to go for this. I need to be in position. If I go and I score that 50, I don't get that same opportunity. Like the stars had to align, and like my play plus my preparation plus everything else has to go into effect in order for me to actually take that Zapdos and win the game off of it. And that's what we do. We just win the game off of it. But there's so many different things that could have gone wrong there, right? Like I know if you are in a position where you're like, man, this game is 50-50 right now, it's pretty close, then you need to be thinking in your head immediately, all right, the enemy team is probably going to go for Zapdos, or I need to go for Zapdos. How do we go and get set up for Zapdos? Maybe you don't take that Ludicolo buff like 30 seconds before. You wait until just before Zapdos starts, and then you take the Ludicolo buff. And then it's also like, don't just run down the center line. I mean, there's certain Pokemon that can just run down the center, like the mid lane, and go and shank it. But if an enemy team is playing well and they're gonna try and defend, 90% of the time they're gonna try and defend up the middle. So don't go and just run up the middle. In that situation, I kind of had to, right? Like, I had Zeraora drop in on behind me. I was like, all right, it's go time. It's now or never. But there's other situations where, like, you could go and you could hop the wall and hide in top brush or to hide in bottom brush, because it's very unlikely that people go and actually check that. At higher levels of play, people understand, like, they go and they do like a 1-3-1 where they'll have one person sit up top, one person sit down bottom, and they'll have 3 in mid. But in a massive amount of scenarios, my steals come from top or they come from below, because if you are looking at Zapdos, it's hard to actually see those bushes, right? It's hard to actually see them. Whereas if you're looking to the side, you're like, oh, someone's coming from the side, let's all push them back. Or like someone's jumping over from base. But if I come from the top, you have to go around the Zapdos pit, right? So, and from a vision perspective as well, approaching from the top or approaching from the bottom in a top-down mobile like this, very different situations, very different means of actually being able to see the target before they're up on top of you. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's some of you who have gone and, you know, I don't know, you've lost Zapdoses over this, where like you all of a sudden that Zeraora that was nowhere to be found was bottom lane, and they came up and they just stole it from you while you're expecting it from the other side. And you need to use that to your advantage as well. But overall, that's just a few tips on how you can be more prepared and how you can secure a lot more Zapdoses than you are currently. I hope you guys learned something new. I know some of it seems pretty general, but you would be surprised the amount of people that don't do this stuff. Focus on your preparation. Like, make sure you're preparing ahead of time that you're going to go and take this objective. You need to go and actually set up for this objective. And in certain circumstances, you can bait people onto it. You can bait people to start doing it. But I hope this gets you guys more wins. I hope this is useful to you. If you found like a useful nugget of information or something in this game, please consider dropping a comment below, a like. If you have any other tips that you think I missed and I should cover in another video, please let me know. Feel free to hop in the Discord. Thank you for the sub, appreciate it. And that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And look at this, we get another steal. Charizard's amazing at steals, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I don't know if I said that, but I can make a whole other video on best characters for stealing and stuff like that. But regardless, you guys have a good weekend. Damocles out.
Time's up! You win!